Thank you. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our Ordinary Council meeting for August 2025. I'd like to start today by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land all across the Southern Downs and in particular the land on which we meet today, the Gittable Camberwell people, as well as the Jagera, Yugara and Gulnaroi people. And I pay my respects to their elders past, present and emerging. Today we have joining us one of our Citizens of the Year, Sandy Van Brown, who is going to give us a prayer or reflection today. Sandy.
Thank you, Mayor Hamilton, and thank you for allowing me to come here this morning and talk to you. I think I've been given an hour, but I'll try and keep it as short as I can. Anyway, first of all, I just wanted to also acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which we meet and pay my respects to the Camberwell people and their ancestors. And secondly, I also want to thank Council for allowing me the opportunity to be Citizen of the Year, or one of the Citizens of the Year for 2025. Sadly, well, I don't know whether it was sadly, but unfortunately I wasn't able to be present to receive that award in person. I was overseas at the time on some other duties, but I did bring it with me. So if you wouldn't mind at the end of this, if I could indulge you to have a very short photograph taken, because I didn't have that opportunity in January. When the Mayor asked me to come and talk to you this morning, she mentioned that she would like me to talk about civic leadership and volunteer leadership. And most of us, when we think about the name leader, or most people in the community, when they think about the word leader, they think about someone up front. They think about a positional leader, someone who is appointed or elected to a leadership role, such as the people around this table. But you all know in your lives outside of this room that that's not what a leader actually is, that most leaders we meet in our lives are what we call relational leaders. They're people who have connections with us that we feel a deep sense of belonging with or inclusion, and we want to walk along with them and take their guidance. And they can be anyone from a family member to a person that we might interact with in a business capacity, or even someone, in my case, the work that I do in the community with volunteers. And I know I'm looking around the room and all of you have been a volunteer at some stage in your lives to some extent, whether you've made sandwiches at your children's tuck shop, or whether you've turned sausages at a Bunnings sausage sizzle, or whether you've sat out in the cold and watched a football game because you had to turn up there for your children, or God help you, a dance concert with your children, or whatever else it might be. And I think that we, the unsung leaders in our community, are what keeps our community operating. We live in a regional and rural setting, and for that there are a number of challenges. But I'd also suggest too there are some wonderful opportunities, and particularly here in Stanthorpe, I'm forever grateful that I moved here. I feel that I have more connection to this community than I've ever had to any other place I've ever lived. And I talk about, my surname is Van Brown, but I always talk about the Venn diagrams in this community, and I'm sure those of you from Warwick would understand and appreciate, or other communities would appreciate it as well. I had the privilege of going to the annual general meeting of the Stanthorpe Regional Art Gallery this week, and in that room, which was full of volunteers, I noticed all the Venn diagrams. There were volunteers there, obviously from the arts community, but there were also people from the gardening club, pickleball, from the choir, from the pottery group, from these Venn diagrams and circles of people who have these wonderful connections with each other across a whole range of different organisations. And whilst that brings us wonderful opportunities, I'm sure you can understand too that brings us challenges, because I'm concerned in our community that the Venn diagrams are getting more and more smaller and smaller. And we really need to encourage our young people to get involved and engaged in service organisations and opportunities for them to really relate to people outside of what maybe their school or their workplace, because the future of volunteering, I don't have to tell you, is looking like me, grey-haired and middle-aged, and the younger people are not engaging as much as we would like. So on the positives, wonderful opportunities. We live in a beautiful part of the world, and we have a lot of opportunities for people to do anything pretty well they want, but also there comes some challenges for us as a society. I'll finish by saying I again want to thank you for the beautiful trophy that I have. I'm under no illusion that when my time is done and the work that I do in the various community groups is over, there won't be a plaque or a statue for me. No one will remember me. My name will disappear into the annals of history. But like many other volunteers, like all of you around this room, I know we don't do it for the statues and the placards. We do it because we love our community and we want to give back and make the future bright for the young people coming behind us. And on that note, I'll finish with a lovely quote, and I don't know who said it, but it was said at the AGM of SRAG the other day, so I'm going to say it again. If you want to go far, go alone, but if you want to go further, get people with you. So thank you for your time, and can I grab my little plaque and get a photo?
Absolutely, absolutely, Sandy.
Here it is. I don't mind if it's everybody or only a few.
Anyone who wants to join, it would be lovely to have all councillors involved. Is else just here?
May I ask?
It'll be a far better photo.
It's good.
Hello, how are you? I'm good.
Randy, you go in the middle.
Thank you. This is even better than what I would have got had I been here in January. I'm very
Yeah, it's
grateful.
true, we seem to have all councillors at the ceremony.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you so
much.
And if I can just say also, I
Oh,
know
did you?
Yes,
that
yeah, I
another
fixed
awardee
it.
is
I'll
coming
double
in
check.
from
That was
the
from last.
No, that's what I want. All I want to say.
No, I'll fix that,
Beautiful.
but I will double check it.
it.
Yes, that's a great idea.
Thank you all. Do you mind if I sit in and listen?
No,
I have
a public gallery.
Oh, great. I've left my placards outside, so when I get some bit, just go and grab them.
Okay, councillors, moving on, we have all in attendance, Councillor McDonald in attendance by Teams and no apologies. We have item 4.1, a recommendation that the minutes of the ordinary council meeting held on Wednesday 16 July 2025 be adopted. Do I have a mover for that? Councillor Bartley, thank you, and a seconder. Councillor Richters, thank you. All in agreement? Yep, that's unanimous, thank you. Item 5.1, actions from council meetings. We have a recommendation that council receive the report and note the contents. Do I have a mover for that? Councillor Harslett and a seconder, Councillor Pigeon, thank you. Are there any questions on that report, councillors? No? All in agreement? That's unanimous, thank you. And declarations of conflict of interest. Councillor Dean, item number?
8.2.
8.2, any other conflicts? Councillor Watling?
8.2. 12.4.
Yep.
And 13.3.
3, thank you. Any other, Councillor McDonald? You're mute, Councillor McDonald.
Apologies, Mayor. Item 9, paragraph or letter 2, as opposed to paragraph 2. And item 12.6.
Thank you. Any others, councillors? No, okay. Starting with Councillor Dean for item 8.2.
Thank you, Mayor. I have a declarable conflict of interest as I have children that attend the school, so I will be directly impacted by this decision. I will not be voting, and as I don't believe I can be partial, so I'll be leaving the room for 8.2.
Thank you, Councillor Dean. Okay. Councillor Wantling.
Yes, I declare a declarable conflict of interest, 8.2, regarding me being of the person who raised this motion. I note that an Apple and Grape Festival Young Ambassador connected to the role of President, as I'm President of the festival, will be operating a stall at the event. I recognise that a reasonable person could see a connection through my festival role. I believe I can consider this matter impartial and in the public interest, and would like to stay in the room and vote.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Wantling. Do we have a mover for Councillor? Thank you, Councillor Richters, and a seconder? You can't take part on 8.2, Councillor Dean. Councillor Harslett, thank you. Okay, all of those who are happy for Councillor Wantling to stay in the room and vote on 8.2. That's everyone who can vote in favour, and Councillor Dean and Councillor Wantling not voting. Item 12.4, Councillor Wantling.
I declare a declarable conflict of interest in item 12.4, as my wife is a manager of 2 local newspapers in the region. I do not have a personal financial interest in this matter. However, I acknowledge that a reasonable person could see my wife's role as being connected to Council's media relations. I believe I can consider this matter impartial and in the public interest, and I would like to remain in the room and vote.
Do I have a mover for that? Councillor Bartley, thank you. A seconder? Councillor Richters, thank you. All those who are happy for Councillor Wantling to remain in the room and vote. Councillors Dean, Bartley, Richters and Windle and McDonald, and those against. Councillors Harslett, Kitchen and Hamilton. That is carried. Item 13.3.
I would like to declare another declarable conflict of interest in 13.3. As I've attended some of the community garden meetings, I have not been involved in the management committee. I have no personal or financial interest in the outcome, and I believe I can consider this matter in the public interest. I would like to remain in the room and vote.
Mover, Councillor Richters, thank you. Seconder, Councillor Bartley, thank you. All those in favour of Councillor Wantling remaining in the room and voting on the matter? That's unanimous, thank you. Councillor McDonald.
Mayor, agenda item 9, letter 2. Both myself and many other landowners within the region have had inquiries made into their property with regard to renewable energy prospects. So I will declare that I would like to leave the room and will not be in the meeting for this particular letter or discussion of it.
Thank you, Councillor McDonald. And item 12.6.
Similarly, in item 12.6, my property has had a number of inquiries similar to other properties within the region made about potential renewable energy projects. So I will leave the room for this.
Thank you, Councillor McDonald. Okay, that completes conflicts of interest. I have no mayoral minute this month. So moving on to the notices of motion. No, that's for 8.2. Yeah, so item 8.1, we have a notice of motion from Councillor Wantling that all sporting and community groups located at Morgan Park be offered the same opportunity as the Warwick Polocrosse Club to connect to recycled water as per the agreement approved by Council in agenda item 14.4 of the Ordinary Council meeting on 16 July 2025. And the offer includes installation of recycled water connection to the Morgan Park boundary by Council, no charge for recycled water for the duration of a 10-year agreement with Council, continued provision of raw water from Connolly Dam at no cost until the recycled water connection is completed by Council, and that this resolution be documented in writing to ensure all eligible clubs are formally advised of their right to take up the offer should they wish to do so. Councillor Wantling, I take it that you will move that motion, and do I have a second? And a second? No. Okay, seconded Councillor Richters. Thank you. Okay. Moving first to questions. Are there any questions? Yes, Councillor McDonald.
Yes, Mayor, through you. Have the Morgan Park Users Group been consulted in regards to this matter?
Yeah.
Councillor Wantling is, I'll direct that to Councillor Wantling in terms of if you've had a meeting with the group on this.
No, I've received email from them just asking, in discussions, I think they, from what we discussed at the last, I've got the transcripts from the last one that said this anyway, but it wasn't minuted, but they sent me a letter asking, an email asking if we could, we could do something about this.
Does that answer your question, Councillor McDonald? And do you want to ask on the staff basis as well, the technical staff?
Well,
Yes, please, if I can, the technical staff.
and through you, Mayor, we've had some discussions with some of the users, but I wouldn't say we've had discussions with all users as yet. But notwithstanding that, our future plan was that we would look at the feasibility of allowing the connection to other properties after the first stage of connection to the Polocrosse was complete.
Yeah, thank you. Nick? Councillor
Through you, Mayor, one further question. To the Director, which groups identified that they're actually interested in using this recycled water?
I'll pass that to the CEO.
Yep, through you, Mayor. There was a little bit of interest of some of the groups, although they don't use a lot of water. There was some concerns raised with the being recycled water, and our recycled water at the moment is not what we call A+, so it's not contactable water. So they're concerned, one of the groups who does the push bikes riding, they were concerned about sort of the if they have a fall and contact with the water with their riders. So that's part of the investigations, if this was to pass, that we'd look into.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
So are you saying, sorry Mayor, through you, are you saying that there was only one other group that's indicated that they're interested?
Through you, Mayor, I think at this stage we haven't done a formal check with all the groups. We've had some preliminary discussions with some of the groups who found out about the Polocrosse water connection through the media and through our council reporting. So as part of that, we would have to have broader engagement with all the groups in the Morgan Park area as part of the next phase of this project.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Nick, any other councillors? No, I have a question. Given in the financial implications and the risk that we haven't done the financial or technical investigations and design work, did staff request time to do those investigations with the councillor? Yes, we did. Okay, and but the councillor didn't agree to giving you the time to do those investigations before this matter was brought before us? That's correct. Okay, thank you. Any other questions before we move to debate? No. Okay, Councillor Wantling?
Yeah, it's pretty straightforward. I would just like them to be given the same opportunity as the Polocrosse to, in saying that also this water, the raw water from Connolly Dam will be disconnected in the future. So they will have to connect to the treated water, is that correct?
Is that a question?
Yeah.
Yep. To see
Through you, Mayor, I think our longer term plan is that we'd like all users off the raw water, but we wouldn't disconnect anyone from raw water unless there was either a potable or a recycled water alternative.
So this will be, in the future, they will be hooked up to that water. So I suppose me bringing this motion here is just the fact that they were given the same opportunities as the other groups on the Morgan Park.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Watling. Do we have someone who wants to speak against the motion? Councillor Harslett?
Thank you, Mayor. We spent quite a lot of time discussing and having presentations from the staff around the Polo Cross Club group, and that was, I understand, because they are by far a major user of water out there compared to other groups, and the recommendation in this that, so as it says, it is strongly recommended that staff are given time to consider this request and fully investigate options. I don't think this. I don't support this motion. I think that needs to go back to letting the staff do their job in the time that they require to do their job, as it has been discussed when we talked about this with the Polo Cross Club.
Thank you, Councillor Harslett. Councillor Bartley, speaking for the motion.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. Look, it's quite obvious the motion says offer. The offer is made, and I think that's fair and reasonable to all Morgan Park users. As the Director quite rightly said, there'll be some people there that won't use a great deal of water but might like to have connection, and you may get some groups not want it. I imagine it would be subject to a further report to Council if there were financial implications once you realise the take-up of the offer, and that's only sensible. But I think it's putting down good groundwork to find out if it's even required by other clubs. So I think the offer is just encompassed in the motion. I think that's reasonable.
Thank you, Councillor Bartley. Anyone else speaking against the motion? Councillor Windle?
Thanks, Mayor. I think given the fact that staff have already indicated that their intention is to speak to the other users prior to making a decision on this and that it would come back to us, I'd like to move a procedural motion that it lay on the table until we get all that information.
Okay, that's a procedural motion to lay the item on the table.
So sorry, the rest of it too.
Until we get all the information, until the staff have had a chance to investigate this further and bring all the information back for us to make an informed decision.
So, all in favour of laying the item on the table? Councillor Windle. And those, and Councillor McDonald, thank you. And those against? Councillors Harslett, Pigeon, Dean, Wantling, Bartley, Richters and Hamilton. Okay, continuing the debate on the motion, do we have any more speaking against the motion? Councillor Dean.
Thank you, Mayor. As a whole, I think.
Madam Mayor, the Deputy Mayor just spoke against the motion, the next speaker will be for the motion.
That was a procedural motion.
She spoke against it and then moved the procedural motion.
Okay, so for Councillor Richters.
Madam Mayor, I think that, look, thanks Councillor Watling for bringing this up. I do personally know 3 groups who would like to be involved in this arrangement. Likewise, I know 2 that don't want to be. But I think the offer should be made. I think it's only fair that when we do get to the point where we are doing the detail of that, that like Councillor Bartley said, the report comes back to us like it would in due course. But I think it's good to put it out on the front foot that we would offer the same arrangement to other groups if and when that arrangement comes to fruition with the council's due course. So I think that this is only preemptively telling community groups what they could expect in the future when the time is right. So I'm happy to support it.
Thank you, Councillor Richters. Councillor Dean?
Thank you. As a whole, I think this is a good idea, and yes, we want all community groups to have the same opportunity. However, I think it's important that we do further investigation first before we move through this motion.
Thank you, Councillor Dean. Any more speaking for the motion? No. Any more against? Councillor McDonald?
Yes, Mayor, I do have some concerns in regards to the motion, just in regards to the financial implications for the community. I agree that there probably are some other groups out there, in particular the new motorbike group that's just started up, that could probably benefit from this. But the staff have not been given enough time to actually look into it and tell us what the financial implications are. So I think we're making a decision on the run here without all of the information. And I'm certainly, when it comes to representing the community, I'm the type of person that likes to have all the facts and figures in front of me so that I know that I can make an educated decision. So at this point, no, I can't support the motion, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor McDonald. Anyone else speaking against?
Question, Mayor. Does this motion bind council financially?
I'll consult with you, but I would say yes.
We're not sure at the moment because we only got this request on Thursday and we haven't had the opportunity to consider this further. So that would be part of our suggestion to bring, when the investigation is done and we understand what that looks like, the first step would be to bring that back to councillors for discussion.
I'm sorry, Mayor, that doesn't answer my question. The motion as it's written right now, there's no mention in there of any financial implications. There's no mention of finance at all. So would it not be correct that we would have to somehow, have either an adjustment to a budget or it would have to be planned in a budget in a future time before any financial expenditure could be expended against it?
Councillor Richters, if you make an offer to a party and if the offer is accepted, you are bound, both contractually and by implication financially. So offer and acceptance is a very basic form of contract law. Making an offer like this, in my view, yes, we wouldn't have any room to go back and negotiate if the staff advised us to make any changes to this arrangement. So in my view, I think to answer your question, I think making an offer to someone with terms like this is in fact a binding offer, the way that it's expressed. So do you disagree with that, CEO?
Through you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Richters, for the question. You'll note on page 9 of the agenda, under the financial implications comment in the paper, we've actually stated there that at this point in time, we haven't been given the time to do the investigation, so we're not sure. It may be, and I'm just speculating here, it may be that no clubs choose to take up this offer, in which case there is no change to what is currently approved by council, or it may be that there is lots of uptake. We don't know that yet, and therefore we don't know the financial implications.
So would there be a way of wording this motion so that it wasn't an offer and acceptance contract?
Are you moving an amendment to the motion, Councillor Richters?
Not at the moment, because I don't have any better suggestions, but
I'm going to speak against the motion. I think that, firstly, I'd like to say that I think it's very disappointing if our staff ask for time to properly consider a matter and to bring all the relevant information to this group around the table so that we're fully informed. I think it's disappointing when we don't give them the respect of actually giving them that time. So I particularly feel disappointed that there's been no consideration of the time it would take staff to prepare this information. I'd also like to say that the offer that was made in the previous meeting was based on both what council was going to do and a substantial contribution from the polo cross. I think that when the staff come back to us, we will need to balance, like we did with the polo cross, the cost to council and what's being put in by the clubs themselves. And some of these clubs may be offering to make that investment themselves, but some may be saying, actually, we can't put any money in. That's a very different scenario, and we need to have all that information for every user as to what, they're not all going to agree to the same contributions, as we're seeing the polo cross are putting in $70,000 to do this connection. So I think we will need to understand, not only from council's point of view what the costs are, but what each club who wants to take up a connection would be bringing, so that we can deal with that. I think it's also very interesting that councillors Wantling, Bartley and Richters voted against the budget, and yet they're happy to sign an open-ended cheque with no financial advice or technical advice. Pardon, point of order. Yes.
I've got the transcripts here from 16th of July where it says that we will be running those pipelines.
What's your point of order?
So but you're having an attack on us for something that's got nothing to do with this here today.
And your point of order?
Is that this has nothing to do with what we're talking about here today. That what's the budget or us adopting the budget got to do with any of this here to do with my motion?
I think if you, as I was continuing, you're happy to sign an open-ended cheque when in fact it should come back to us for an amendment to our capital budget if we need to put further works in. So I would expect all of us around this room to want to do that as part of a budget process, rather than signing council up for unknown costs in a meeting. So I'm going to be voting against the motion, because I do think we need to have all the information available before we consider this for each individual user. Anyone else want to speak for or against the motion? Councillor Pigeon.
Madam Mayor, I understand that the Polo Cross will be the largest user of the water. So in my eyes, I think it would be best to deliver that outcome. We're also going to find things along the way that will work and things that aren't going to work. So I think that needs to be thought out before we actually go and see anyone else and offer that service. But also it gives our staff the time to go and see the other groups and see where they're situated. I believe that everyone should be offered the water, but as in timing wise, we need to consider that and it be part of a process. It's not just to go straight in without looking at all of the different variabilities that could be there.
Thank you. Councillor Pigeon, and right a reply, Councillor Wandering.
I'm not here to give money directly to another club like this. What it is really why I brought this to the table today is because of the transcripts where we said on the 16th of July that we would run them services to the border of those properties. And now I've got another email here that says council at this time are not interested at this stage of doing that. So my point is, we've said in this 16th of July we're going to do it, and then we said we aren't going to do it. So my problem is here today is that we just are making an acknowledgement, hopefully, that we will give them the same opportunity as what
Councillor Wantling, just a correction. What was said in the meeting was that, and it was said directly by the General Manager Infrastructure, that they would need to bring proposals back to council, and this would be a staged process, and we would move further down the road so that other clubs could in the future connect. Now, I don't think that what has been said by the director or in the meeting in that respect differs to what we're talking about.
That's not what it says. It may be what it says, but you're not telling the full amount. Where council will provide the trunk services to the boundary, and then they will do a reticulation with their individual clubs.
Yes, but that's part of a discussion where it was said that they would need to bring the proposals back to council.
Yeah, but it says here, like I said before, that it'll take them to the boundaries.
Okay.
Thank
you, Councillor Wantling. Moving to a vote.
Before we do, Madam Mayor, I take exception to the assertion that 3 councillors would sign their name to a blank cheque. I really take exception to that. I want that put on the record.
Thank you, Councillor Bartley.
Actually, I'd like to go further and I'd like the mayor to withdraw.
I'll withdraw. I'll say that it is, I'll withdraw and say, yes, I shouldn't have used the term open-ended cheque. I think it's clear from the discussion what we're talking about in terms of, financial and technical advice. Okay, those in favour? Councillors Wantling, Bartlett, Richters, and those against. Councillors Dean, Pigeon, Harslett, Hamilton, McDonald and Windle. Moving on to our second notice of motion from Councillor Wantling, we have a notice that council waive and refund in full the temporary event permit fee. Councillor Dean leaving the room. The council waive and refund in full the temporary event permit fee charged to the Greenlands State School PNC for their upcoming trail bike ride in September 2025. So again, Councillor Wantling, you're moving the motion?
Yep.
Yes, and do we have a seconder for that one? Councillor Bartley, thank you. Councillor Wantling, do we have any questions before we start the debate? No? Okay, off you go, Councillor Wantling.
This trail ride event run by the Greenlands PNC is not just a fundraiser. It's about giving kids in a little rural school of just over 60 students the same opportunity as any other. The money raised pays for classroom resources, helps families who otherwise couldn't afford to send their kids to school camps and keep the breakfast club running so children don't start their day hungry. The permitted fee that was applied for stated that the event, as usual, would attract 300 to 350 riders, with a maximum of 500 riders. I'm not sure if a mistake has been made, but in the comments on this item, the permit was based on an event with over 2,000 people. Applying a large-scale event fee to a small rural school fundraiser simply doesn't fit. Yes, the CEO has delegated authority and gave a 50% reduction. That's already happened, but the school was still left carrying a heavy burden of nearly $800, and that's why it has come back here to council today. And when talking about precedent, every decision we make sets one. We've already granted 100% reductions for civic centre events. If that's acceptable, then surely supporting a small school, rural school, raising money so kids can go to camp and have breakfast is even a stronger precedent to set. For those reasons, I would like to strongly support 100% waiver of this fee.
Thank you, Councillor Wantling. I actually do have a question coming out of that. Given that the CEO has the authority to reduce or waive fees, was this raised with you at all before the notice of motion was put in? And has the councillor spoken to you since the notice of motion about getting the group in contact with you to discuss that? No. Okay.
Through me, it had already gone to CEO, as I explained. So that's why it was brought back here today. For delegated authority, it had already been, that's why it got 50% discount. And like I said, it's got 2,000 people in the comments when there's only 350 riders go there.
Councillor Wantling, the 50% reduction is actually in the fees and charges that we adopted as part of the budget. It's not a decision that's automatically applied.
Yeah, I understand that.
So the reduction of either waiving or reducing the remaining 50% would be an issue to go to the CEO.
Not necessarily. As a councillor, I can bring in as a motion.
Would anyone like to?
Can I ask a question, please, through you? Councillor Wantling's spoken about 350 riders, but how many people actually attend the event? Because my understanding would be that event permits are about the number of attendees at the event, not the number of participants in an activity within an event.
So I've got the temporary event permit here.
My question is how many people come to the event, because that is what the permit would be around, not around the number of participants within an activity in an event, unless I've misunderstood.
No, so it's 500.
500 attendees.
They've nominated 500, yeah. A rough estimate.
Just want to clarify, is that the riders or the attendees?
No, the most amount of riders they've got 350, but they've said in this here, it's got number of people attending 300 to 600, maximum number of people 500. So that's, you know, if they bring one of their kids with them, if the other husband and wife.
Do we have, so Councillor Wantling has spoken for the motion. Do we have anyone speaking against the motion?
Can I ask another question? So is there a fee charged for the attendees and the riders to attend this event?
Yeah, definitely, yeah.
So they could probably even charge a little bit more just to try and cover their costs. I mean, I don't know what their fee is or what's, you know, feasible.
I didn't ask any of them questions, but I'm sure they'd be charging a fee because this is what funds what I explained before.
Councillor Harslett?
I'll speak against if we're done with questions. I will be voting against this. For the main reason, I do appreciate that we need to support our community events and everything, but if the reason for it is giving opportunity to all children at a small regional school, just like other kids get at other schools, it is the state government who funds education in Queensland. This is not a local government thing. That might sound harsh, but it is a state government responsibility to fund schools. So if the children at Greenlands are missing out on opportunities because they go to Greenlands, that is a state government matter, in my opinion. So setting a precedent here, I agree, is a very concerning thing, to set a precedent where we are funding things that are state government controlled. It also concerns me, the answer to the question there. I think that's really unclear as to how many people are coming to this. Are they riders? Are they attendees? It is many years since I've been to the trail ride, but when I did go, it was a massive event. It was way, way more than 500 people. It would have been thousands and thousands of people. Now, it may have changed in that time, so I do not know, but that's why I think in order to know what kind of event we are even talking about, we need a lot more information on the nature of this event.
Thank you, Councillor Harslett. Anyone else speaking for? Councillor Bartley?
Yes, thanks, Madam Mayor. This type of activity isn't the only one held within our region. I think Killarney do similar, have a big bike ride. It basically is to fund the extracurricular activity for this school, for trips to Canberra, to broaden the horizon and education of the children that our state government doesn't cater for. It basically alleviates the financial burden of the parents, our ratepayers. So in effect, we are helping our ratepayers out by assisting them in running these events. The tragedy of it all, they might pay this event permit fee and not get the amount of attendees they would like. We live in difficult times. Numbers are declining in all these types of events, which is sad because it is their main money earner for the schools for the year. It is what gives those year 12, normally the senior of those schools, to go to these places and see our democracy in action at Canberra. Most of them do a trip to Canberra and see Parliament in action, or they'll visit the Canberra War Museum, things they may never see in their lifetime unless they are funded by these events. So I understand the word precedent might occur. If it happened for Killarney, I would support the precedent as well, because it's the only opportunity these smaller schools have to raise funds. The bigger schools, they're more robust and they have different avenues of getting money to support those sorts of trips, and mostly they don't get undertaken in the bigger schools. The smaller schools are very lucky to have such involved parents. So I can see the need for it. I understand the trepidation of the P&C in the fact that they'll pay all this money and may not get the amount of people. So they're very concerned, and that's probably why they're doing their finances so diligently.
Thank you, Councillor Bartley. Anyone else speaking against? Councillor Windle?
My concern here is that there's like Councillor Bartley has said, there's a lot of events held like this throughout the region with smaller schools or smaller organisations. My concern is that if we set a precedent with this, are we going to get inundated with other organisations and schools asking for the same fee reductions or waivers? How is that going to affect our budget? Are we going to be looking at another rate rise next year? We don't want to do that, but how do we fund these things if we don't have room in the budget? I won't be able to support it, unfortunately.
Thank you, Councillor Windle. Anyone else speaking for?
A question for the CEO, Mayor. How much last financial year did council take in revenue from local event permit fees?
Through the mayor, I'll just take that on notice.
Thank you.
Anyone else speaking against? Councillor Pigeon?
My concern with this is that if we start with this, where do we go? My other question is probably to the CEO. I can see the 50% waiver there. Other ones have had 100% waiver. If Councillor Wantling had actually come to you rather than have been a notice of motion, could there been some sort of agreement there to look at this in a different way, or do we have to bring it through this procedural motion?
That's just a question. Yeah, through you, Mayor. Yes, so I'm just mindful that councillors in the past have brought very similar situations to staff, and we've been able to work directly with the community group to work that out. An example is a recent fundraising event that happened in Killarney where the traffic management plan, for instance, was incredibly expensive, and council was able to work with that club to arrange that. We as officers are very encouraging and very favourable of any community event. We think they are fantastic things for our community to do, and would always try and work very constructively with the group to be as flexible as we can within the remit and the budget that councillors have approved.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm going to speak against the motion. When I read this, to me, if I was a councillor and a group had come to me, the first thing I would have done would be pick up the phone to either the CEO or to myself, the Mayor, and just raised it, because I don't think it needs to come through to us in a notice of motion. It looks very operational. If the numbers are wrong in their event permit, that is absolutely an operational issue for staff to correct the permit and the fees being charged, or if the numbers are correct, to work with the group. I actually don't think that we have the information that the staff would get through discussions with the group. And I just think that it really is better dealt with through the channels that we are all aware of now. We've been here for 16 months, that if you want these things reduced or waived, you just refer it on to the CEO. So I have, again, like everyone else, I support what the groups are doing. I do think it's important that we have consistency in our fees, but I do also think that as part of process, it should be referred through to the CEO. So I won't be supporting the motion. Does anyone want to speak for or against before we go back to Councillor Richters?
Yeah, I find it quite obscene that the inference that has been applied just now in the debate of this is that had Councillor Wantling approached this in a different way, there would have been a different outcome. I think that is offensive. I think
Point of order, Councillor Richters, we weren't talking about the outcome, we were talking about the process. It may have been the same, it may be different, who knows?
But the inference was put there. And the fact that Councillor Wantling put this up as a notice of motion is within his legislative right to do so as a councillor. Can I just remind councillors that we changed these fees last year during the fees and charges. The fees for this, when I referred to the fees and charges from 23-24, would have been, the maximum amount would have been $219, and the 50% discount meant that would have been $110.
Point of order, Councillor Richters, how do you know that this was a low impact event?
Well, it definitely doesn't meet the multiple day high impact event category.
Under 2,000 people.
So
It could be medium impact, it could be low impact.
even if you apply the medium impact, thanks Mayor, and it's $557, even half of that is way less than the half that we got now, which is $800.
Point of order, Councillor Richters, point of order. If the numbers that Councillor Wantling is talking about, this year's fee is $607 compared to say the $585.
even without the, I don't think at the time we changed the temporary event permit structure and the fees and charges. I don't think our intent at that point in time was to burden our small schools. I think the intention was there to capture large events that were, making profit, and were a significant workload for our staff. Not a simple P&C event that's meant to raise funds for school. And I think that we would be wise to consider lowering the amount of money that we're asking the school to pay.
Right of reply, Councillor Windle.
The way I see it, if we're setting a precedent, we should set a precedent. There's no outcome of what sort of money they make at the school, whether they get a wet weather event. I think they're thinking about cancelling it now till next month. The issue is here, I suppose, this is what Councillor Bartley said. This is a money-making event so that they can help with their breakfast, taking away kids to camps. And like Councillor Richter said, if I was to take this to the CEO, who knows what the outcome would have been anyway. So this was my option to bring it to a motion to the meeting. And I'm quite allowed to do that as the Act states. And I've got a copy of the Act right here in front of me. So.
Councillor Watling. Okay, all those in favour?
Could I just check who the seconder was? Sorry,
The seconder was Councillor Bartley. Sorry. All those in favour? Councillors Watling, Bartley, Richters and McDonald. And those against, Councillors Harslett, Pugin, Windle and Hamilton. And I'm going to use my casting vote against. Thank you. We can get Councillor Dean back into the room.
I'll get him there.
To pick up with the staff, please. Okay, moving on to item 9. We have a recommendation that the report of mayoral correspondence is received. Do I have a mover for that? Councillor Harslett, thank you, and a seconder. Councillor Windle, thank you. Are there any questions on those correspondence items, councillors? No? Okay. All in favour? That's unanimous, thank you. We have no petitions or joint letters. And then we're on to portfolio reports. We have a recommendation that Council's Prosperous Communities portfolio report be received. Do we have a mover for that? Councillor Dean, thank you, and a second, Councillor Windle. I will take that report as read. It was really highlighting for people the amount of issues that we cover in these Council of Mayor meetings, and it's great to have so many ministers and assistant ministers and shadow ministers who make themselves available to come to those group meetings and to hear directly from the mayors in the regions. Are there any questions on that one, councillors? No. All in favour? Unanimous, thank you. Then we have a recommendation that Council's Liveable Communities portfolio report be received. Will you move that, Councillor Windle? Thank you. And a seconder, Councillor Pugin, thank you. Over to you, Councillor Windle.
Thanks, Mayor. Through you, I look, it's very straightforward. I've written a report there. I can take that as read, and I've actually included some photographs to show what work was actually done to improve the Cars Lookout, which is up near Killarney. I just do, though, want to take this opportunity to point out that I was actually up there visiting the lookout with a family member about just over 12 months ago, and I was actually quite surprised to see how much repair work was really needed for that lookout. It was in need of a lot of TLC. So I did take photographs and I did report this back to council, and I want to commend the staff for taking that on board and doing an assessment on it, and then looking at ways to find money within the budget to be able to do those required improvements. At the same time, they were actually able to use a local timber supplier, which is great because that project now remains true to its valued roots and the historical value that it holds, that it upholds. And it's actually a really good example of what can happen when councillors work with staff or bring things to their attention that need to be done, and residents can do this as well. So I just encourage the residents, if they see things like this that need to be done, let us know, and at some stage it can be done. Whether it's done straight away, 12 months down the track or 2 years, it can be done. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Windle. Okay, all in favour of receiving that report? It's unanimous, thank you. And lastly, we have a recommendation that Council's Inspired Communities Portfolio Report be received. Councillor Harslett, moving? Yes, thank you. And a seconder? Councillor Windle, thank you. Over to you, Councillor Harslett.
Thank you, Mayor. Again, I think it's quite straightforward, although I'm not sure whether this quite qualifies as a portfolio report in my portfolio, but what it didn't really fit anywhere else, so that's why it's here. But basically, all I was hoping to achieve by submitting this report is I think it's important for our community to know what their councils are doing. It took me out of the region for a week, this training. It was incredibly valuable, and I just wanted to, to note that and encourage my colleagues, if you get the opportunity, please jump at it. It is, I couldn't recommend it more highly, the Director's course.
Thank you, Councillor Harslett, and yeah, absolutely agree that it's incredibly valuable for councillors. Most councils try and encourage all of their councillors to go along because these courses really do help councillors understand better the role that they're in and how to perform at a higher level in that role. So fantastic that you've got through. All in favour of receiving that report? That's unanimous, thank you. Okay. Moving on to item 12.1, the Executive Services Report. We have a recommendation that Council receive and note the Chief Executive Officer's status report. Do I have a mover for that? Councillor Harslett, thank you, and a seconder. Councillor Dean, thank you. Any questions on that, Councillor Richters?
Yeah, why is there two questions on notice that don't have any answers?
Through you, Mayor, the first one, Councillor Richter 17.1, was answered via an email, I believe, to councillors, which I think went out last week or the week before, from memory. In fact, both of those relate to the same item. And if you've missed it, please let me know and we'll resend it.
I didn't miss it, Mayor, but the response is required to be in the report.
That was a confidential item, Councillor Richters, so I'm not sure that...
Is there nothing that we could have put in there?
I could have noted the date that the email went to you. You can make that.
Okay, maybe, yeah.
Okay. All those in favour? That's unanimous, thank you. Item 12.2, the LGAQ annual conference attendance. We have a recommendation that Council consider the attendance of councillors to the 2025 LGAQ annual conference being held at the Gold Coast from 20 to 22 October 2025. Now, we probably, councillors, need to consider who will attend the conference. So what I might do is open it up for those who are interested to put their hand up at this point and volunteer so we can discuss that. So Councillor Dean, I believe as part of the Young Councillors cohort, you are interested in attending the conference?
Correct, yes.
Yes, I as Mayor am interested in attending the conference. I think it's really beneficial to have the Mayor at that annual meeting. Is there anyone else who is interested at this point? Councillor Richters is interested in attending. Okay. Anyone else? Right. Can I just check with the CEO? I think we have 2 votes at the conference, and yes, okay. So we would probably usually, I think last year we had two of us there, Councillor Wantling and myself were there last year, so we would probably want at least 2 attendees. And we have 3 councillors interested. I will just confirm again, as I did last year, that I actually pay my own costs in relation to that. So in terms of financial implications, I pay for my own accommodation, travel, etc. So opening it up then to debate. Councillor McDonald.
Through you, Mayor, just a question. Have we budgeted for 2 individuals to go?
Yes, we have. Through the Mayor, we have a line item in the budget for councillor training and professional development and to attend the conference. And I think from memory, there's probably about 3 that's in there in terms of attendance. And that doesn't include, as the Mayor just mentioned, that she'll cover her own expenses.
Thank you very much, CEO. Well then, Madam Mayor, I think that it's quite possible that we could actually have another person attend, potentially.
Thank you, Councillor McDonald. Can I just actually confirm with Councillor Richters that you would be available for the full conference should you be going? Yes, okay, thank you. Are there any other questions? And opening up for debate. So I think we'll probably need to, does someone want to move an amendment to the motion to add some names?
I'm happy to move that Councillor Richters, Councillor Dean and yourself as Mayor attend the conference for the 20th to the 22nd of October 2025.
Okay, so that's an amendment motion. Do I have a seconder for that? Happy to second. Councillor Harslett, thank you. I'll just have to, you're right. Okay. Okay, so we have an amendment motion to send myself, Councillor Richters and Councillor Dean to the LGAQ annual conference. All those in favour of the amendment? That's unanimous, thank you. Okay. And then going back to the amended motion that Council endorse the attendance of the Mayor, Councillor Dean and Councillor Richters to attend the 2025 LGAQ annual conference being held at the Gold Coast from 20 to 22 October 2025. All those in favour? That's unanimous, thank you. Okay. Moving on to item 12.3. We have a recommendation that Council adopt the updated Council Meetings Policy PLCS 036 as provided as attachment 1 to this report. Do I have a mover for that? Councillor Richters, thank you. Seconder, Councillor Pigeon, thank you. Any questions before we go to debate? No, okay. Councillor Richters?
Not really any question, Mayor, just that I know that the update that we're actually adopting today is nearly 12 months old. Is there a way of us being able to inform changes more speedily than that? Is there like a notification thing that comes out?
Yeah, certainly through the Mayor. Yes, Councillor Richters, you'll be aware that Council currently doesn't have a governance manager. With the appointment of a new governance manager, that will be a high priority for them.
Okay.
The department will generally review, not necessarily change, but review once a year. Sometimes it's more frequent than that, so we'll get across that in a shorter time period in future.
Because I imagine like the department would write to us, wouldn't they, when they put that out? I'm just guessing. Okay.
Just a question. Is there a better way that we can get track changes for these policies when they come through?
I think Council. Yeah, I was just going to mention it's harder with PDFs, but the CEO will take that on notice. Can't really track change a PDF.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Opening up for debate, Councillor Richters. No? Anyone else? No? Okay. All those in favour? That's unanimous, thank you. Moving on to item 12.4. We have a recommendation that council adopt the reviewed and amended media relations policy external PL EX 004. Do I have a mover for that? Councillor Harslett, thank you. And a seconder? Councillor Dean, thank you. Okay. Are there any questions on that one before we move to debate? Councillor McDonald?
Yes, Mayor. Can you possibly tell me, it says that there appears that there are no legal issues associated with this report. To the CEO, do we think that we might have to actually seek legal advice on this?
Through the Mayor, not on the policy itself, no. We've had considerable input from the LGAQ on this.
Thanks, Madam Mayor.
Thank you.
Thanks, CEO.
Okay. Opening up for debate.
Thank you, Mayor. I support the policy as it's given to us in the agenda there. We've had a lot of discussion around this amongst ourselves. I think we've covered this one personally.
Okay. Anyone who wants to speak against the motion? Councillor Bartley.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. I'm not in favour of the changes to the policy. I think effectively goes towards gagging elected members to a large degree. I believe we've always been able to give a personal opinion, but in here, the way I read it, that message of conveying a personal opinion to the media has been basically prevented as far as the way I read into this policy. Correct me if I'm wrong, but if it has any denigrating, it says in here, has any denigrating effect of council, then we have contravened the policy. I've always been led to believe that we can always espouse a personal opinion as long as we make sure it is clearly articulated as a personal opinion. I read comments in the Town and Country Journal such as council make messy and factious decisions. Well, maybe someone who has the power to make those comments needs to be probably brought into some consideration in this policy too, because I certainly don't appreciate those comments when they're put in the paper, but as far as I can see, this policy won't address that.
Thank you, Councillor Bartley. You did ask to be corrected. I think if you look at 4.4.3 of the policy about elected members' opinion and 4.4.4 about negative comment, they align with section 3 of the Code of Conduct, which was the advice given by LGAQ when they talked to us about this policy. They said that their view was that it aligned with our Code of Conduct obligations. And I think, to me, when I look at item 3 of the code, it does actually align with what is in the policy. Okay. Anyone else want to speak for the motion? No.
Just to add that, I think it's very straightforward. I urge people to actually take the time to read it through, and it's not there just as a document, it's there to protect us as councillors as well. So I think that it's important that we understand it and take note of it, of this policy.
Thank you. Speaking against, Councillor Motley?
I'd have to agree with Councillor Bartley's. This policy tips the balance too far toward controlling uniformity. Councillors are elected to speak on behalf of their communities, even when this means disagreeing with the majority. Any policy that limits the voice risks gagging councillors and undermining the very principles of local democracy. For all these reasons, I can support adopting this amended media relations policy.
you, Councillor Wandling. Anyone else wanting to speak for?
Just, sorry, through you, Madam Mayor, just to clarify Councillor Wantling's comments there, I mean, 4.4.3 to me is very clear in elected members being able to enter into public debate. We just need to make sure that we take the steps to ensure that if the media is quoting us on our own personal opinion, that is stated, and that's very clear in 4.4.3. So it's not actually stopping us, it's
So
not saying we can't.
question to you, Madam Mayor, so 4.4.4, basically, does it contravene 4.4.3 or negate it?
No, I don't believe so. I don't believe so. We are elected to support council decisions, whether we are all in agreement or not. Once the decision is made, we are meant to actually accept that decision and move on. So I don't think it does. I think it's quite clear. And that's my personal opinion, and as a councillor.
I might speak for the motion and address that issue as well. I think that by going, I think it was a great step to, while we had, this came up, at the last meeting, and we have the gap that the CEO pointed out of, we don't have a manager governance. So I think it was a great step to approach LGAQ in that gap and ask them for best practice models around media policy. This is based on their view of some of the best practice models in the state. I think it's much clearer than our previous policy. I think as a councillor myself, going to this new one, the answers are much clearer than they were under the previous one. And I think, it absolutely aligns to the Code of Conduct, and I think to look at again that question about the elected member's opinion and negative comment, the Code of Conduct is clear that if you are expressing an opinion dissenting with the majority decision, you do have to acknowledge that the local government decision represents the majority view of local government, and you have to strive to maintain and strengthen the public's trust and confidence in the integrity of local government, which I think very much aligns with clause 4.4 of the policy. Okay. Anyone else wish to speak, or shall we go to a vote on that? Councillor McDonald?
Yes, ma'am. In my opinion, local laws are subordinate to, but need to be reflective of Queensland government policies. I took advice from the LGAQ yesterday, and neither the Local Government Act or regulation has a media relations policy, and as such, this is a matter for our council. It is, in my opinion, extremely prudent that we consider the Queensland Human Rights Act of 2019 and potential contraventions in the following areas. Councillors must liaise with, councillors must liaise with the CEO, Mayor, and or Media Communications Coordinator and officer prior to making comments on official matters. 2, the communications and marketing team will determine which, if any, elected members or council officers are involved in making promotional activities. 3, council officials must support council decisions and refrain from using media to make negative personal reflections on each other, council or council officers, or comments that could be interpreted as such and or are reasonably likely to undermine public confidence in council or local government generally. The basic principles of the Queensland Human Rights Act 2019 consider participation, accountability, non-discrimination, equality, empowerment and legality. Part 1, Division 1, Section 1, the main objects of this are A, to protect and promote human rights, B, to help build a culture in the Queensland public sector that represents and promotes human rights, and C, to promote a dialogue about nature, meaning and scope of human rights. This policy applies to the Southern Downs Council as defined as a public entity in Para 1, Section 9. Subpara D states, a public entity is a local government, a councillor, or a local government or local government employee. I believe this policy may not comply with the following sections of the Queensland Human Rights Act 2019. Part 2, Section 21, Freedom of Expression. 1. Every person has the right to hold an opinion without interference. 2. Every person has the right to freedom of speech and expression, which includes the freedom to seek, receive and impart information and ideas of all kinds, whether inside or outside of Queensland. A. Either orally, B. in writing, C. in print, D. by way of art, or E. in another medium chosen by that person. Part 2, Section 23, taking part in public life. I'm concerned about this area as well. Every person in Queensland has the right and is to have the opportunity without discrimination to participate in conduct of public affairs directly or even through freely chosen representatives. Also, contrary to Division 4, Section 58, conduct of public entities. It is unlawful for a public entity, A, to act or make a decision in any way that is not compatible with human rights, or B, in making a decision to fail to give proper consideration to human rights relevance to the decision. For the reasons above, I cannot in all good conscience vote for this policy, and I implore my colleagues to consider the possible legal ramifications for endorsing such a policy. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor McDonald. I'll just correct one item there. You quoted from the marketing and promotion activities section. That is about marketing and promotion. It is not about official council business or opinions that you might have. It is just actually about advertising. So that's why elected members clearly, post Karara, cannot direct staff to do marketing and promotion activities because it could be used by us to further our re-election campaigns. So it's very clear that marketing and promotion cannot be influenced by councillors. That is a separate matter to whether you have freedom of speech on council issues. I actually think that the 4.4.3 and 4.4.4 align with the Code of Conduct. The Code of Conduct for councillors in Queensland does allow you to express your opinion, provided it is done in a way that complies with the code. And I think the policy actually aligns with the Code of Conduct and allows councillors actually greater scope
Point of order,
than
Madam
the
Mayor.
previous one.
This runs in contravention, as I said, to the Queensland Human Rights Act 2019. It's not about the Code of Conduct.
Thank you, Councillor McDonald. Going to a vote on that. All in favour?
Madam Mayor,
Sorry.
look, I've thought about this quite deeply, and I support a change to our media policy. I just can't support this one. And I think it's pertinent because I have been subjected to multiple complaints about media relations, all of which have been unfounded. And it's my opinion at this point in time that the wording in this new policy specifically, I guess, fills voids that would allow the IAA to make other findings on similar complaints. It doesn't, as other people have said, it doesn't just openly allow councillors to make an opinion. I totally agree with the Code of Conduct and the intentions of the Act. Yes, when we are a councillor acting in a official capacity as a spokesperson for the entirety of the organisation, then we have to be within the guidelines of our media policy. But each individual here is elected and each individual here has an opinion. And provided that opinion is their opinion and that they acknowledge that it's not the opinion of the majority of council, then they should be free to make those opinions public.
Councillor, just point
Yes,
of
you
order.
say that is
Councillor,
written in there, but it's not quite, because it goes on to talk about dissenting views. Well, that's just shutting down public discourse. So if there are certain things in there that I agree with, there's certain things that I don't agree with. I would like to see the media policy revised in a way that specifically targets councillors acting in their official capacity, but also specifically doesn't target councillors when they're acting in their private capacities. And until that can happen, I just can't support it.
Okay, going to a vote on that.
I've just got a quick question. Given your financial donations to the independent media outlet, The Conversation, I believe there is at the very least a perceived conflict of interest in your driving changes of our media policy. Under the Act, perceived conflict should be declared and handled transparently.
Thank you, Councillor Wantling. I don't believe I have a conflict in this matter, or I would have declared it.
Okay. Yeah, I was just bringing it up.
I don't think going and buying a newspaper makes anyone have a conflict.
Yeah, I will. Yeah.
So, okay, going to a vote on that. All in favour? That's Councillors Harslett, Pigeon, Dean, Hamilton and Windle. Those against? Councillors Wantling, Bartley, Richters and McDonald. Thank you. Moving on to the Pest Management Advisory Committee, we have a recommendation that Council appoint Councillor McDonald as an additional councillor representative to the SDRC Pest Management Advisory Committee. Do I have a mover for that? Councillor Pigeon, thank you, and a seconder. Councillor Dean, thank you. Do we need to discuss this, or are people happy to move to a vote on this one? No. All in favour? That's unanimous, thank you. Item 12.6, I think Councillor McDonald will be leaving us. Councillor McDonald, I can just, I will mute, I'll mute the room so that it has the same effect. Thank you. Okay, we have a recommendation that Council appoint a councillor representative to the McIntyre Wind Farm Precinct Community Engagement Committee. Do I have a mover for that? Councillor Pigeon, thank you, and a seconder. Councillor Windle, thank you. Okay, the recommendation will need to be slightly amended because we will need to actually appoint either a position, for example, the portfolio holder for X, or a councillor by name. So opening it up for discussion on that appointment. Any people who want to volunteer or nominate someone? Councillor Pigeon?
Councillor Joel Richters has been part of this in the past, and even though I'm a portfolio holder in AG, I believe that I would like to see him continue in that role, so I'd like to nominate him for that.
Thank you, Councillor Pigeon. Are you happy with that, Councillor Richters?
Yes, Mayor.
Okay. I think that's an amendment motion to appoint Councillor Richters to the McIntyre Wind Farm Precinct Community Engagement Committee. Do I have a seconder for that nomination? Councillor Harslett, thank you. Does anyone want to discuss or debate that motion?
A question, actually. I just want to clarify, this is specifically for the McIntyre, the Acciona, McIntyre Wind Farm Precinct Community Engagement Committee. Does that include Harry's Range? No, this is on, thank you, I just wanted to clarify what that.
Yeah, so the Community Engagement Committee involves both projects now.
Which is fine, I mean, it doesn't change my support of the
Used to be
seconding
called
of the
the
motion, I just
McIntyre.
wanted to clarify, that's all.
It used to be called the McIntyre Wind Farm Community Engagement Committee, now it's just called the Acciona.
In the amendment,
and
should
Karara
that be just clarified, perhaps?
I think that's what it's called in their letter. But it does say in the terms of reference that it covers, in section 1, covers McIntyre, Harry's Range and the Karara BESS battery storage system. I'm quite happy with the nomination. I would simply say that as a council representative to any committee, we obviously would expect reports to come back to council, and for any matters of relevance to council to be discussed so that the councillor has the ability to interact in that committee, knowing the views of their fellow councillors. So, does anyone else want to speak for or against that motion? All in favour? That's everyone who can vote, and Councillor McDonald not voting. Okay. Moving on to item 13.1. Can you hear us again, Councillor McDonald?
Thank you, Mayor.
Yep. Item 13.1, we have a recommendation that Council receive and note the financial performance report as at 31 July 2025. Do I have a mover for that? Councillor Harslett, thank you, and a seconder. Councillor Richters is scratching his nose, not seconding. You're happy to second that, Councillor Richters? Lovely, okay, thank you. Do we have any questions on that report, councillors?
Yeah, Mayor, I'm just looking at the under budget for the first quarter. I can't remember whether the first quarter last year we were under budget because of the budgeting cycle, but I'd imagine that is just a normal at the start of the financial year under revenue spend.
Yes, that's correct, Councillor Bartley?
A question, contractors, do they appear in this as either, do they come in under material and services?
Through you, Mayor, yes, that's correct.
Thank you.
Anyone else? No. Okay, moving to a vote on that.
Sorry, I just want to make one further comment, Mayor. It's good to see that our spending commitment has started off in the year above the red line. It's great to see.
Thank you. Okay, all in favour? Unanimous, thank you. Item 13.2, we have a recommendation that Council award contract number 25144 Operation and Management Allora Community Pool to the Queensland Police Citizens Youth Welfare Association to the total value of $1,205,314 ex-GST over 3 years, which is made up of ex-GST $395,461 in 2025-26, $398,466 in 2026-27, and $411,387 in 27-28, and amend the Council allocated 25-26 financial year budget, including the 4 years of 26-27 and 27-28, to reflect the recommended contract amounts that are specified in item 1 above, and delegate authority to the Chief Executive Officer to negotiate, finalise and enter into a contract and/or contract variation with the Queensland Police Citizens Youth Welfare Association as deemed necessary. Do I have a mover for that? Councillor Pigeon, thank you, and a seconder, Councillor Windle. Thank you. Councillors, do we have any questions before we go to debate?
I've got a few questions. Look, I'm completely in favour of this, but you'll probably have to take these questions on notice. I've just picked up a few. Just how will the budget shortfall be addressed? Will council cut from other areas, increase fees, or absorb this extra cost?
Yeah, I'm happy to take that on notice.
Yeah. And if the contract runs over budget, who wears the risk, council or the operator?
So through you, Mayor, because this is a contractual arrangement, there's fairly clear roles and responsibilities as defined under the contract. So the amount being endorsed today is the amount that will be allocated. There will be no further funding provided.
Will the entry fees be capped or controlled to remain affordable for families?
So once again, through you, Mayor, within the contract, contractual arrangement, or the contract to be executed, the fees and charges still come back to council like they do for the YMCA with WIRAC in the centre, so the council still has oversight for those fees and charges.
Yep. And will the free monthly youth program be guaranteed throughout the contract? And how will its impact be measured?
So again, through you, Mayor, that's something that, from a reporting point of view, if council endorses this recommendation, obviously that would be part of the contract execution and part of our regular catch-ups with the PCYC to ensure that this goes through.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, councillors, do we have, who moved to the motion? Sorry, Councillor Pigeon, do you want to speak to the motion?
Please. I look forward to this moving forward for Allora. The pool is a vital part of the community, and the fact that the PCYC are looking at enhancing local programs and delivering extra things for the youth in the area is very exciting, and I'm looking forward to what that's going to mean for the community going forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Pigeon. Does anyone want to speak against the motion? No. Anyone else want to speak for the motion? Councillor Windle?
Thanks, Mayor. Yeah, I just want to point out an area within the report that clearly states the intent of the PCYC, and so it's clearly stated here that in partnership with local government, PCYC Aquatics proudly connects with communities to create meaningful opportunities through youth development, sport and recreation. And I think that's a really good point for not just Allora, because I know that there's actually some people from outside the region and also from Warwick who use the Allora pool. So it's not just entirely about Allora, it's about the community. I do believe there were even some families from Stanthorpe who used to travel to Allora prior as well, so that could continue. So the fact that they are committing with that statement, I think that that's pretty clear, and they have clearly stated as well what other activities they intend to do, and the commitment to the monthly drop-in youth program on the adjacent basketball court will be welcomed, I'm sure, by a lot of youth in Allora and possibly other people in the region. So I commended it. It does seem like a lot of money, but spread it over 3 years and get the return that we're meant to get for it. I think it's going to prove itself very valuable to the community.
Thank you.
Am I able to say one more thing before we close?
You have right of reply, so I'll come back to you. So anyone else want to speak?
Can I just ask one more question? Will we receive performance reports like we have in the past with the others?
So through you, Mayor, that would be a decision for the council. So we do get monthly reports from all other pools, so would that be K-Life or the ones who are contractors. Obviously that would be a conversation with the CEO in particular, whether or not they then table that future ACMs.
Thank you.
I'd like to speak for the motion similarly to Councillor Pigeon and Councillor Windle. I think one thing that we learnt very much last year, just after the election, is how passionate the Allora community are about their pool, and you mess with that pool at your peril. So I think it's really important to ensure that we keep the pool open and that we have a really good operator for that pool, because it is very heavily used by that community. I think at the planning consultation session that we had in Allora last week, we had community members coming up speaking to us not just about the planning scheme but specifically about the pool to relay their support for it remaining open. And just one item for the staff, there is certainly interest in the community in getting information about the opening hours once that's available in the negotiation process. That's something that they're very focused on. So I'd just ask if we could make sure that the community are updated once those are agreed. And that's all. Back to Councillor Pigeon for draft reply.
Yes, thank you. I also just wanted to mention a big thank you to the past team that were operating the pool. They did a wonderful job. The opportunities that they gave to the students and the children in the community with the Learn to Swim programs and the squad and everything else was second to none. And the pool itself, the cleanliness was exceptional. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. All in favour? That's unanimous, thank you. Item 13.3, we have the Killarney Community Garden request at Canning Park. we have a recommendation that council approve the request of the Killarney Community Gardens to transform part of Canning Park into a community garden, subject to KCGI executing an appropriate licence agreement for the area with council. Councillor Wantling, would you like to move that motion?
Yes.
Yep, thank you. And a seconder? Councillor Windle, thank you. Okay. Any questions before we go to debate? No, Councillor Wantling, over to you.
Sorry, I did have a question. Through you, Mayor, I just want to clarify, because I was unsure as I read it, whether there would be general public access to the space or whether it would be a members only situation, and if so, what barricade would potentially be put in place to make sure that it stayed members only, if that was the intent there.
Take that through the
Yes. Get my 10,000 steps up again, councillors. So through you, Mayor, the whole intention of going through a licence arrangement is to have that non-exclusive use, so, or right I should say, which still allows members of the community to participate. During the process of the application or the request to council, the applicant was still clear that yes, there'd be paying members, but it wouldn't exclude other members from enjoying the opportunity as well.
Thank you.
Councillor Wantling.
In my opinion, these are one of the proposals that ticks so many boxes for our community. A community garden is far more than a patch of dirt with vegetables in it. It's a space that brings people together, improves wellbeing and creates an opportunities for every generation to be involved. The survey results are clear. 97% of respondents supported a community garden in Killarney, and almost 80% supported its location in Canning Park. That's a resounding endorsement from the community, and I think we should listen. Most importantly, this project has been driven by the community from the very start. Residents have attended meetings, formed a committee, and are prepared to put in the work. They're not asking council for an ongoing handout, just for the opportunity and the support to use the portion of Canning Park for something that will clearly benefit Killarney. Council has said many times that we want to support active, healthy and connective communities. Approving this proposal is a tangible way of showing what we mean, that we mean it. I believe the Killarney Community Garden will become a place of pride, learning and wellbeing for generations to come, and I am fully in support of this motion.
Well said, Councillor Wantling. Do we have anyone speaking against the motion? Councillor Bartlett.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. I guess the survey, and if you read carefully the results of it, 49 people responded. Out of those 49, 38 were in favour of Canning Park, but not all. I believe, unfortunately, much as we hope our surveys target the general population, it generally gets the people who want this to happen, and the rest of the community aren't really interested till it occurs. Then you find out who's happy and who's unhappy. Canning Park is the major park of Killarney. It has 3 parks. It has Teeny Park, Lions Park, which are both susceptible to flooding, given Teeny Park is right on the banks of the Condamine and Lions Park is in a waterway, and that's why it ended up being a park. The ground was not useful for anything else but a grassed area. Unfortunately, Canning Park is the main park and it is well utilised for major events. And one thing that hasn't been taken into consideration is Christmas in the park for Killarney, and the Lions Club run that. And the area suggested, if you have a look at the shaded area, the tan coloured area, that is where the Lions set up their tents and catering facilities to supply entertainment and what have you for the community. So it will severely curtail what happens in some situations as far as local events go in Killarney. I believe it probably, whilst the survey shows what the applicants wanted to show, I don't feel it's the true intent of the general population. I believe it's an easy way of finding another, like it's similar to a men's shed where people can all go to talk and discuss and have a common interest of gardening. I think we could have looked for suitable alternative sites. Killarney's a a fairly big area of very viable soil, and I'm sure we could have found a better place that wouldn't impact on the open space that is normally required with a growing population, and we need to retain it.
Thank you, Councillor Bartley. That's a very good point about the Christmas Killarney celebrations. Can I ask a question through staff as to whether that's been considered in bringing this report to us?
So through you, Mayor, not directly, but coming back to the licence toleration point, what this resolution creates is still a requirement for the applicant to come back to council to actually formulate all that governance around it. So this is really giving an intent that the area can be used, but the licence for the use of the area, all those other aspects then need to be considered. So it's
While you're up, could I ask a question? In the process of this, did staff actually speak to the group about alternative options of other sites, as Councillor Bartley has raised?
so through you, Mayor, no. So the request for Canning Park actually came from the group.
Okay, so no others were considered.
So Michael, is there other parks that they could use or?
Within Killarney. So Councillor Bartley, going through you, Mayor, Councillor Bartley has a whole lot. Some of the challenges in Killarney is some of the flood impacted locations, so you can use them, but they are susceptible to natural disasters. This is fairly central, which is why it's probably attractive to the applicant in this particular case. So we were driven by their request most definitely.
I think I'm going to move a procedural motion that we lay it on the table so that staff can consider and consult with the Lions out at Killarney, Councillor Bartley, so they can consult with them around those Christmas celebrations and come back to us. So procedural motion to lay it on the table until next month. Those in favour? Yeah, that's unanimous. Thank you for raising that, Councillor Bartley. Okay, item 13.4, we have a recommendation that council adopt the attached revised Citizen of the Year Awards Policy, PLSD 041, as amended. Sadly, our Citizen of the Year has now departed and won't hear this item, but do I have a mover for that? Councillor Harslett, thank you, and a seconder. Councillor Dean, thank you. Okay. Councillors, again, do we have any questions before we move into the debate? No? Okay, Councillor Harslett.
Thank you, Mayor. This was a hotly debated topic last year, so I think what's been presented today doesn't have any particularly significant changes compared to what we discussed last year. I think that these changes in the end come down to lessons learned in what we did this year, and I think that they are all quite sensible and practical amendments due to the experience that we had this year. So I fully support these changes.
Thank you, Councillor Harslett. Do we have anyone speaking against the motion? No? Does anyone else want to speak for the motion?
I think we need to reassure the community that our citizenship awards ceremonies will be held on Australia Day.
Yeah.
Yes, it says in there that we can hold it either side of Australia Day, but that's not the intent. The intent is to stick to Australia Day and make it part of how we celebrate Australia Day as a council in the Southern Downs by welcoming new citizens to the region and acknowledging citizens who do great contributions.
Thank you, Councillor Richters. Councillor Dean?
Going on what Councillor Richters was saying, I think by going off the numbers of how many people do want to become a citizen on Australia Day, I think it's important that we keep it on that day so they have that opportunity to celebrate becoming a citizen on Australia Day. And I think, that's important to keep it the way it is,
Councillor Watley?
So just a question, why was that put in the policy that 3 days before and after? That we could have that event?
take that on notice, councillor.
It's in the national,
It's probably,
it's in the National Citizenship. That's actually in the Citizenship Act.
it wasn't in this policy that I read, but
Yeah, it's got being the national policy.
Councillor
I
Bartley.
have a question, Madam Mayor. Are we comfortable in the fact of saying that venues will be rotated and the rotational basis is as follows: Dalveen, Allora, Wollongara, Killarney, Leeburn, Merivale? There's no mention of Warwick or Stanthorpe having an Australia Day ceremony. They're our two major centres. I'm surprised we've left them out. Warwick doesn't have an Australia Day event. It used to always have an Australia Day event. It doesn't occur anymore. And people are asking why not.
Thank you, Councillor Bartley. Any other councillors? No, I might just say, look, I think in the past there had been in a previous term, council had applied under the Great Australian Bike Program, particularly around Australia Day in Warwick. I know that that was a very successful program, and that it might be something that we can get council to look at again. We didn't have enough time last year for that program, but I know it was successful, and I think it's something worth investigating, particularly for Warwick.
And same for Stanthorpe too, Madam Mayor. Stanthorpe historically always had an Australia Day event.
Australia did.
Did last year.
Did last year, yes.
And I think it deserves an Australia Day event, and because they are two major centres historically that have always had them.
Sorry, can I just ask a question through you, Mayor, to Councillor Bartley? So are you meaning that council should run those events?
Well, facilitate, because otherwise it doesn't happen. And historically, they always did facilitate.
So, but these particular ones that are being rotational are about the awards and the citizenship ceremony, not actually an Australia Day celebration event.
And previously, those citizenship awards were done in the major centres as well.
Yes, I realise that.
Yeah. And I think, Councillor Bartley, the reason that this particular one doesn't mention those is Warwick and Stanthorpe have citizenship ceremonies throughout the year, whereas the other centres don't ever get to see it. And I have to say that the event this year that we had, it was amazing. We had 100 people as part of that citizenship ceremony who were residents who actually joined in the pledge of loyalty to Australia. So it's great to take it out to people and get, normally at our citizenship ceremonies, we only have friends and family there. It was great just to have people who had come to the Citizen of the Year Awards also experiencing what a citizenship ceremony is all about, and it's a really uplifting ceremony for people to be involved in. So I think it's great that we get to take it broader than simply Warwick and Stanthorpe as regards the citizenship element of that ceremony.
So in 5.1.114, should we change it from Community Australia Day event to Community Citizenship event rather than Australia Day event?
Well, it is Council's Australia Day event, is the Citizen of the Year and the citizenship ceremony. I think your point as to whether Council facilitates other Australia Day celebrations and what funding would be required for that, we'll probably refer to the CEO to bring to assist in due course, so that we can consider. These are our civic ceremonies. We are obliged to do, we do citizenship and we run the Citizen of the Year. As to other celebrations which are not civic events, we can discuss those and whether there needs to be a budget allocation and whether staff are available to do what would be required there.
It just that 5.114 where it says Council will also provide guidance and support to community organisations across Southern Downs in relation to the conduct of their Australia Day celebrations.
Yeah.
So if Warwick decide to run one, we're more or less obligating ourselves to support them.
Yeah, I actually had a question mark there myself, Councillor Bartley, as to whether that should say non-financial support.
Through you, Mayor Mr. Well, because that probably raises a good point, because I know Killarney Lions usually run one out in Killarney, but I don't believe we give any financial assistance for that, but we do offer support, and generally there'll be councillors in attendance to present awards and support the event, but other than that, there's no financial assistance.
No, they've always stood on their own 2 feet.
Perhaps to clarify that for the purpose of adopting this policy today, can I suggest an amendment to 5.1.14 to refer to non-financial support at this time until we consider budget implications of that? Do I have a seconder for that amendment? Councillor Windle, all in favour of that amendment? That's Councillors Harslett, Pigeon, Dean, McDonald, Hamilton, Richters and Windle, and those against Bartley and Wantling. Okay, so that amendment's passed, and then going to a vote on.
Sorry, may I have
Oh,
a
yes,
reply?
right, reply, sorry.
Thank you for raising that point about the venues, Councillor Bartley. That, in my recollection, was quite a deliberate list when we had this as a councillor information session that was brought to the table by one of my colleagues. I'm guessing that maybe you weren't part of that discussion then, since you didn't seem to be aware of that.
I'm aware of that, but I'm also aware of the feedback from last year from the community. Historically, Allora used to have an Australia Day event too, but unfortunately that slipped away, but they were very similar to Killarney, the way they ran this.
Okay, moving to a vote, because that was the right of reply, all in favour? That's everyone except Councillors Wantling and Bartley, and those against, Councillors Wantling and Bartley. Thank you. Moving on to item 13.5. We have a recommendation that Council approve a 5-year lease to the Queensland Fire Department for the Stanthorpe Combined Rural Fire Group over part of Lot 1 on SP 168058 in accordance with the Local Government Regulation 2012, whilst adhering to the relevant provisions of Council's tenure policy, the Land Title Practice Manual and the Land Act 1994, and grant delegated authority to the Chief Executive Officer to sign any survey plans which may result from this application and negotiate any dealings relating to this matter with the Queensland Fire Department. Do we have a mover for that? Councillor Pigeon, thank you, and a seconder. Councillor Dean, thank you. Oh, sorry, Councillor McDonald. Are there any questions on that?
Is there a reason that they went from a 10-year lease to a 5?
Through you, Mayor Melissa, can I explain?
Yeah.
Through you, Madam Mayor, I'm happy to take that one on notice, sorry, I didn't hear it.
Okay. Thank you. Does anyone want to speak to the motion? All in favour?
More, I don't really speaking against or for really. The questions really, okay. The Queensland Fire Department, namely the Rural Fire Brigade, have this facility in Stanthorpe. I'm not aware of any other like facility in Warwick. But am I correct in that assumption?
I suspect take that on notice.
Take that first.
Okay. Going to vote on that one?
I just wanted to hear it.
All in favour? That's unanimous, thank you.
That's only one thing.
Item 13.6.
Mayor, point of order.
Yes, Councillor McDonald.
My apologies and my omission for the next item. I should have declared a conflict of interest in that I am actually a member of SEDESA.
Thank you.
My apologies, and I would like to stay in the room if possible. I don't believe that biases me in any particular way. I'm also ex-serving as well, which may be perceived as a conflict of interest.
Thank you, Councillor
My
McDonald.
oversight. I
Do you want
apologise.
to stay in the room and to vote?
Yes, please.
Okay, do I have a mover for that? Councillor Bartley and seconded Councillor Richters. All in favour of Councillor McDonald staying in the room and voting? That's everyone except Councillor McDonald, who doesn't vote. Okay, thank you, Councillor McDonald. We have a recommendation that council approve a 10-year lease to Southern Downs Ex-Service Association Queensland Incorporated over part of Lot 1 on RP 153771 in accordance with the Local Government Regulation 2012, whilst adhering to the relevant provisions of council's 10-year policy, the Land Title Practice Manual and the Land Act 1994, and grant delegated authority to the Chief Executive Officer to sign any survey plans which may result from this application and negotiate any dealings relating to this matter with Southern Downs Ex-Service Association Queensland Incorporated. Do I have a mover for that? Councillor Windle, thank you, and a seconder, Councillor McDonald. Thank you. Can we go to the vote on that one?
Sorry, I'd like to make a comment on that. I think it's they've proven themselves for quite a number of years now how successful they are, the Sedessa Group, and I encourage any councillors, if you haven't been there to visit, to call in and have a look to see what they have actually got on display in there. It's amazing. They've done a really, really big effort, put together a lot of memorabilia, and they do encourage the public to come along as well. They're usually there at least on a Friday. Is that right, Councillor McDonald?
Yes.
Yep.
That is correct, Wednesdays and Fridays.
Yep. And the other thing I just want to, it's only a note, it's not really for us to action at the moment. The area of land that faces Wood Street, it's been raised before that they're very short of parking out there at times when there's different events on or different things happening within that precinct. And we have approached the main roads in the past about actually providing some more parking because the footpath space is really, really wide. So maybe we could just take that on notice for council to follow that up with main roads to see whether they are going to action that any further, because it would be beneficial.
Thank you, Councillor Windle. Councillor McDonald.
Yes, Mayor. Just in regards to these leases, I will say that they demonstrate great cooperation between the council and what we offer and the community groups that actually take these leases up. It's wonderful to see such an active group such as Sedessa and the fact that the council can support our ex-serving community. This group I know alone has spent $10,000 in the last 2 years restoring and fixing up termite damage to that particular premises. So they're certainly holding up their end of the bargain. Well done for doing that, and it's great to see council and community working together. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor McDonald. Councillor Richters.
No, Mayor, I'd like to move an amendment that dot point 2 is that the annual rent be set at $1.
Do we have a seconder for that amendment? No, that lapses. Okay, going back to the original motion, all in favour? Unanimous, thank you. Item 13.7, Karara Public Hall. We have a recommendation that council approve a 10-year lease to Karara Public Hall Committee Incorporated over part of lot 97 on SP 137655 for the purposes of hosting camp drafts and dog shows in accordance with the Local Government Regulation 2012, whilst adhering to the relevant provisions of Council's tenure policy, the Land Title Practice Manual and the Land Act 1994, and grant delegated authority to the Chief Executive Officer to sign any survey plans which may result from this application and negotiate any dealings relating to this matter with Karara Public Hall Committee Incorporated. Do we have a mover for that? Councillor Wantling, thank you, and a seconder, Councillor McDonald. Thank you. Question, Councillor Wantling?
I think you've got the colours wrong on this. The existing lease area is shown in yellow. Is that right, or am I reading this wrong?
No, you're right.
The wording above.
You are right.
Yeah. Can we ask which one's correct, the wording or the map?
So through you.
Sorry. Diane, do you want to?
Yeah, sure.
Or Councillor Harslett, do you have it there?
Thank you. That wording there doesn't match the colours. That says green versus yellow the other way around. So
It
which
should
is
be
correct?
reversed. The yellow is the proposed leased area and the green is the existing.
So the map
So the map is
map
correct
The
and the
wording is
wording's
incorrect.
correct. There you go, Councillor. Yes, Councillor McDonald.
Once again, Madam Mayor, I'd just like to say this is another fantastic example of council and a community group working together. This one in particular, I have to admit, has been going on since almost, well, probably midterm for when I first started serving as a councillor. So it's been some years in the making, this particular lease. I will say, fantastic to see what they have been doing out there. There's been $20,000 spent on resurfacing the oval. They're a very proactive group. We've had $13,000 spent on upgrading their amenities block and $10,000 on their barbecue shed. So there's been a lot of active changes out there. They are really looking after the asset. So once again, as I said previously, great to see council and community groups working in partnership.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Councillor
Mayor.
McDonald. Anyone else on that one? Councillor Whitman?
Yeah, Mayor, I'd just like to say it's fantastic to hear that this is finalised as well. I've had a few phone calls about this one. As Councillor Windle said, it's been going on for quite a while and they let me know that. So, yeah, it's great to see it's finally finalised.
You didn't see then, Councillor Watling, but Councillor McDonald went like this.
Yeah, I
just
think,
then,
yeah.
So passing that on to you. She's with you, I think.
It was Councillor McDonald that made the comment, not Councillor Windle.
Okay, going to a vote, all in favour of that?
Mayor, I'd like to move an amendment that we accept the annual rate at $1.
Thank you, Councillor Richters. Does he have a seconder this time for that? No, that lapses, thank you. The original motion going to a vote, all in favour? Unanimous, thank you.
Ask for a report of financial. That's what you need to do.
Item 14.1, we have a recommendation that council note the submission to rename Washpool Road Warwick and make no change to the naming of Washpool Road. Do I have a mover for that?
Yes, on the motion.
Councillor Harslett, and a seconder? Councillor McDonald, thank you. Okay. Do we have any questions on that before we move to debate? No? Okay.
No, it's not a question, I was ready to debate.
Okay.
I'll just get ready. No, sorry, it's nothing that serious at all.
Councillor Harslett.
I'd like to move an amendment, if I could, to the motion or in addition to the motion, more so than I guess that counts as an amendment. Because I respect the recommendation as it is, and thank you to the staff for looking into it. But could we improve the signage on that road so that it is much clearer how to get to the Washpool Reserve? Because you kind of come on and off Washpool Road. Having done a drive out there, I can see why it's confusing, but I also can understand that if the staff have done the work that they've done and that's been the response and the recommendation. So I don't want to change the recommendation. Just like to add that we look into improving the signage on those two corners.
I'm happy to second that, because I had the same point myself, so I'm happy to second that amendment.
What does Marion need from us?
Can I suggest, if that's okay, Councillor Harslett, can I suggest that we add to the end of the recommendation, make no change to the naming of Washpool Road, comma, and staff do further investigations regarding appropriate signage?
Perfect, yep. Yes. Thank you.
And Marion, that should be staff do further investigations rather than give. Okay.
Can I
Councillor
make further comment? It's not,
Yes, we can debate the amendment now. So Councillor Harslett has moved the amendment.
well, I'm not against the amendment, so I can't speak, I suppose. I just wanted to add some more comment.
Well, you can speak for the amendment and add your comment.
Yeah. So nobody's going to speak against it, I take it, because it's that opportunity at the moment, isn't it?
William Bentley.
Just on the fence with something.
Well, can I, well, I'll point out. Okay, so if you look at the map that we've been given with this, this road is distinctly 3 sections. And it is not clear for visitors and even some locals as to how to get to Washpool Reserve. I accept the fact that the staff have explored this option of changing the name with the emergency services, and I accept what the outcome is there, but there is still a problem with, we own an asset there with Washpool Reserve, it's council owned, and we have a lot of people who stay at that reserve, whether they're tourists and locals, both. But they find it very difficult to find their way there at times. So whether they're coming from, say, Stanthorpe and they're coming off Glen Road goes along for quite a long distance, and then suddenly it changes to Washpool Road. There's no even bend in the road there, it just changes to Washpool Road. And then they go along a bit further where it joins Glenvale Road, but they've got to turn right again on Washpool Road to find the reserve. If they're coming along the Cunningham Highway from Warwick and turn left onto Washpool Road, they've got to make another distinct right-hand turn onto Washpool Road, and then another distinct right-hand turn onto Washpool Road again, with very limited signage. There is one sign out there with a bit of there's a tent and there's a few other camping indications, but not really clearly stating that it's on the way to Washpool Reserve. So I support the motion that we need to improve the signage, but it needs to be not just on 2 locations. We probably need to talk to Main Roads and have a sign where the Cunningham Highway links with the start of Washpool Road, and also Glen Road where it starts there from the Stanthorpe Warwick Highway. So, you know, we've got to support our own tourism in this region, and we need to be able to clearly identify for our locals and tourists how to get to those locations if they want to camp there at our own council-owned facility.
Yeah, I'm in support if we have a lot more signage. Just on the summary, it says, you know, the basis that emergency service have not expressed any concerns. I've had a couple of people from emergency services. Would it be that emergency services, like, they do a fantastic job, don't want to admit sometimes that they might have got lost?
I don't think we can, I don't think we can end.
Yeah, I agree, and like, they all do a fantastic job, but I have heard that they bring cadets up here to work in Warwick. Yeah, and signage might be the answer to the problem, hopefully, yeah.
Thank you. Councillor McDonald.
Yeah, I would concur certainly, Mayor, with the sentiments of extra or additional signage. As Chair of the LDMG, I did put this forward to the emergency services, and I had no response, basically, or a negative response as far as they didn't have any concerns with regards to the road. Yes, they understood, but I certainly take on the Deputy Mayor's point of view also that it does affect tourism, so I think that that's very fair.
And yeah, I agree as well. You know, from a tourism perspective, it's important that we don't just have clear signage, but we have signage that promotes the region. And I just think I'm supportive of the amended motion, because changing the name of a road for the numbers that are in that affected section is such a large administrative burden on owners. They've got to change all their bank details, they've got to change it with insurers and every company that they deal with. And I think we definitely need, if we were going to go the other way, we would definitely need to make sure that all of them were fully supportive of the change, given what we might put them through. So I think this is probably the easier way to deal with the matter is through improved signage. Does anyone else want to speak before we go to the vote? No? All in favour? Okay, that's the amended motion, unanimous, thank you. And then going back to the original motion as amended, all in favour? That's Councillor Richters, are you against or?
Yes.
Okay, that's everyone except Councillor Richters, and against Councillor Richters. Thank you. I am going to move a motion to adjourn for 10 minutes. Do I have a second for it? Councillor Windle, thank you. All in favour? Unanimous, thank you. Thank you. Okay, welcome back at 11:22. We have item 14.2, a recommendation that council adopt the updated drought management plan June 2025 and continue to update the drought management plan following additional work for Stanthorpe and associated catchments. Do I have a mover for that? Councillor Dean, thank you, and a seconder. Councillor Harslett, thank you. Okay. Councillors, do we have any questions before we move? Yep. Councillor McDonald?
Mayor, through you, I think it's a fantastic policy. It's well constructed. The only area, and the question that I have is, have we considered the agriculture and the horticultural sectors within this document? Because I can't see any reference, so it may be an oversight on my behalf. Sorry. But those two sectors are extremely important during drought and to this community and our region. So I'm just wondering from the CEO, if she can tell me, have we actually considered putting those two sectors within this and the impact on them?
Through you, Mayor, can I pass that to Director of Infrastructure?
Yeah, and through the Mayor, yes, it has been considered. Obviously, this drought management plan is principally about our potable water for the community. However, we are going to do some revisions in the next version of the drought management plan when the Toowoomba to Warwick pipeline, if approved by Council, is operational.
Thank you, Madam.
Yeah, Councillor Bartley?
Thanks, Madam Mayor. It's a very interesting document if you read it all the way through very carefully. It's quite complex in a lot of ways. And the interesting one, and I think it was most controversial, and it probably leads on from what Councillor McDonald was talking about, the standpipe demands during the drought, and there's a pretty good part in this table 4.3, it's well worth reading. We restricted rural residents from access to the standpipe during the drought, and I think some work needs to be done around that. What, admittedly, they gave water for human use, but no potable water was to be provided to livestock. And that sort of created a lot of motion because some of that livestock could be regarded as pets, what have you, so it got quite concerning during the drought. Councillor McDonald will remember that, and Councillor Wantling, how the restriction of the standpipe were becoming quite controversial during that time. The other thing, they stopped the supply of potable water to the truck wash. That occurred, and it uses about 2 megs a year. And it's not just for clean down after cattle delivery, it's also for clean down of machinery delivery from other areas that are infected with weeds of a noxious nature, Parthenium, all these things we don't want in our area. So the truck wash actually provides two services. Apart from cleaning down, it prevents the spread of declared pests, and that's a major consideration. And I think we need to look at alternative supplies, one way or another, to keep that truck wash fully operational during drought times, because it's when people need to unload livestock, and it's when people need to clean down machinery when it's being moved, and to stop it being operational, those trucks went somewhere else and cleaned down, and I hope it was in a regulated area. We can only hope it was. But there are other things in it needing a lot of consideration. But the standpipe became very emotional in the 2017-19 period. So those demands could increase, and I know the table says that because of our expanded population, particularly the rural res areas. And I know there's been a lot of tanks given out. In that time, we supplied tanks as a council. That may have some impact, but if you get prolonged droughts and we don't get rainfall for 12 months, you will be impacted at the standpipe.
Councillor Bartley, any other councillors?
Yeah, that was during my first term of council actually, and yes, it was a very emotional time, and it was the decision making was extremely difficult. Stanthorpe had already run out of water, and Warwick was getting very, very close to running out of water. So the decision to to stop some of those things from happening was really difficult, hard, and a lot of people were finding alternative locations for their pets, horses, cows, cattle, sheep, even their pet dogs had to go in some cases because of the water shortage. It was really, really tough. So, you know, it could happen again, and we could be faced with very difficult decisions again around those standpipes. So we can't, it's hard to put things in place to make it easier for people because we don't really know what the impacts are going to be until we're actually faced with it. It's very hard.
Thank you, Councillor Watley.
So I just have one issue is, so there was drought charities in the area. Have them statistics been taken into this at all? Because I know we were giving out 300,000 litres of water a week, and that was separate from anything that was taken into consideration with council statistics. Yeah, and that's just what we were doing. There was another charity as well, so there was a lot, you know, during a week there's well over half a meg was given out a week, so.
Yeah, I'd like to say we're very lucky that our dams are all still full. We're potentially heading into a wet spring, and while this drought management plan focuses on, as the director says, the general manager says, the potable water supply for our towns, I actually think that in a long-term planning sense, we have an opportunity as a council to look at a more holistic plan that covers not just the potable water and not just water, but actions that we can take as a council in assisting people as we head into different drought scenarios. So I think that there is a real opportunity there for this council once we get through some bigger ticket items like the planning scheme consultation at the moment, and maybe over the next year having a look at how we can improve our readiness for drought scenarios. Councillor Harslett?
I was going to say something quite similar, I suppose, so I'll just give a brief. This is obviously a drought management plan. I think that there is a real opportunity to have a drought prevention plan or something similar to that. I can appreciate that they're slightly different in their approach and their context. So yes, I think what we've been presented with here in this report is good. It's detailed. It's clear.
Thank you. Councillor Harslett, are we okay to go to a vote on that one? All in favour? That's unanimous. Thank you. Okay, moving on to item 17. We have a recommendation that the meeting be closed to the public and move into committee to discuss the following items which are considered confidential. In accordance with section 254J3 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, which permits the meeting to be closed to the public for business relating to the following as indicated. This item is considered confidential in accordance with section 254J3G of the Local Government Regulation 2012, as it contains information relating to negotiations relating to a commercial matter involving the local government for which a public discussion would be likely to prejudice the interests of the local government. Do I have a mover for that? Councillor Windle, and a seconder. Councillor Harslett, thank you. I think Councillor Richters, you want to speak against?
Yeah,
this
Madam Mayor,
motion?
because this item is clearly not a confidential matter. It's a statutory matter under our planning scheme, and the information contained in this report is public information.
Thank you, Councillor Richters, and through the CEO to the General Manager of Planning. Is there anything particular to this matter which we should be aware of in terms of confidentiality?
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Richters, for the question. It was a question I asked myself. It is my understanding that it has been this council's practice in the past to consider changes, negotiations around infrastructure charges notices in a confidential manner, but I had no difficulty with you considering it in an open discussion as well.
Okay. Does anyone else want to speak for or against that motion? Okay. So those in favour of moving into a confidential session? That's no one?
That's a good
explanation. Okay. And those against? That's unanimous. Okay, so we will consider item 17.1 in open meeting. We have a recommendation that Council under section 125 of the Planning Act 2016 refuse the applicant's change representations made in relation to the infrastructure charges notice dated 27 May 2025, issued with the development permit for material change of use for the purpose of function facility, existing shed up to 60 guests, caretakers accommodation and short-term accommodation 5 units, 1 existing dwelling house up to 8 guests and 4 cabins over 3 stages on land at 108 Coochie Road, Dalveen, described as Lot 2 SP 268864. Do I have a mover for that motion?
Can I ask some questions of the?
We have to move and second
Oh, yeah, true, yep.
to get it into discussion. Do you want to move it, Councillor Richards?
No.
Councillor Harslett, thank you, and a seconder. Councillor Windle, thank you. Okay, yes, questions, Councillor Richards?
So in the report it says that they want to have all the fees and charges waived. I've read that correctly, haven't I?
All of the infrastructure charges.
Yeah.
To be clear, not all of the fees and charges.
Yeah, correct, all the infrastructure charges. In their report, they say that their project will have no impact on existing trunk infrastructure. Can you advise us what trunk infrastructure will be impacted by this?
As the report details, through you, Mayor, as the report details, Councillor Richards, there is still an impact on trunk infrastructure such as road access and local and regional parks. So people coming to the property will still be accessing it via a range of road networks across Southern Downs Regional Council area, and potentially and hopefully as tourists exploring many of our trunk parks. So we specifically note the applicant, I think, speaks to the fact that they believe people will be locals. Even locals though do use our regional parks and our local parks, but there is no requirement in their application for them to be local-based residents only. So the provision of your trunk infrastructure, road and park network is still able to be utilised by anybody attending this premise. That's the logic of the calculation of the charges and the LGAQ itself.
Any other questions?
So with that taken into consideration, Coochie Road will be the only piece of SDRC road infrastructure being used because the New England Highway adjoins that and then it goes to a private road. So there's only a certain length of Coochie Road that would be regarded as trunk infrastructure in this case.
I think the other component, sorry, I keep skipping that point, sorry, Mayor. Thank you, Councillor. The logic is that the rest of the trunk network is available for use by that increased capacity. So yes, in terms of the immediate access, it's Coochie Road and the New England Highway, but they may well come through other trunk roads as part of access to that property.
Councillor Harslett, open. Sure, since I moved it. Yes, I'm a bit torn on this one. That's fairly obvious by the hesitancy around the room, I think, with moving the motion. However, yes, I thank you for that explanation to the general manager there. I think that's a good explanation. There have already been some of the infrastructure fees waived, I understand, for other things, but they do still use roads. So I guess in the end, that's probably all I have to say about that. Okay, thank you. Does anyone want to speak against the motion? Councillor Richards?
Yeah, Mayor, look, we've had a similar instance to this only a few months ago. And whilst, yes, I can see that our LGAQ has got basically a catch-all clause in it that allows us to apply infrastructure charges to literally anyone. I would argue that's not the intention of the LGAQ. The LGAQ's intention is to for us to identify where there's future infrastructure demand and where people are developing in those areas, we apply them additional charges to pay for that infrastructure. That's the intent of it, and whilst I accept that there's this catch-all clause in there. I don't agree with it, so I won't be supporting the motion. You know, if this was being done in an industrial estate where we had identified in our plan that there was future infrastructure being done and that this was a development application in that particular area, then sure, I'd be supportive of it, because we would be applying the money that we gather from these charges directly towards providing the infrastructure for the future. When clearly this block is, you know, so far from any infrastructure and not anywhere near where we plan to put water or sewage or anything else like that into it, I just can't agree with this. If we had in our LGIP said we were going to build a park right next door to this property or somewhere in the vicinity of this property, I might be agreeable, but there's clearly no park near it, and so I won't be supporting it.
Thank you. Anyone else who wants to speak for the motion? Okay, I'll speak for the motion. In my view, tourism this is short-term accommodation and a function facility, so I think it absolutely will be attractive to the tourism market. Tourism is one of our growing industries, and I think in terms of how we as a council deal with not only the expectation of tourists around our trunk infrastructure, but also our existing residents, and show them that council promoting tourism in this area will benefit them by the improvement of services and development. I think it's really important that we look to fund some of those infrastructure costs through the people who are actually developing the facilities and the businesses, rather than going out to general ratepayers, which we have to do. And we know that our road network in particular, the costs related to that are extremely high. And I think where we have the opportunity, we are as a council providing infrastructure which benefits the business that this person will run. And I think it is only fair that in exchange for council providing that opportunity for doing tourism marketing, maintaining the roads and the parks, that we get a contribution from the developer in terms of those infrastructure costs. So I am supportive of the recommendation from council officers. Does anyone else want to speak against the motion? Councillor Bartley.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. I suppose we could have conditioned it to seal Coochie Road. Would that be fair and reasonable? Probably not, given the length of it. It's regarded as an all-weather access road now, and that leads to an area, and it's quite interesting the way it's described, a parcel of land burdened by an easement. So I guess if you've got an easement, it's burdened to the land. It's interesting terminology. It is landlocked without that easement. So historically, I think, given that it's not a subdivision, it's only an application for a development of a camping and a function facility, I think council would have probably conditioned the easement to be of a certain construction. But we find, because it's in the rural, those conditions wouldn't be fair and reasonable, I imagine. So because of where they're placing it, gives them some flexibility to ask for these things, the relaxation of infrastructure charges, which we normally would put to an area more closely settled. It's interesting. I imagine this will be impacted by the fire overlay code, I imagine, because of if you look at the topography there, it's well and truly vegetated. So there'll be some other impacts on this development apart from the requirement to make sure they can get the people to and from the facility safely on our piece of trunk infrastructure. I accept the argument that they might go into a town and use the other facilities such as our toilets and our footpaths and everything, but I think that's recouped with the money that's spent, as the Mayor quite rightly said, by tourists who like to enjoy our facilities in our community. So probably in this it looks like we're enshrining it in red tape, and I think we're all about reducing red tape, I thought. There's been a move to reduce red tape in all development. But this one seems to be bound up in it a little bit. So given the way it's been done, I don't think it should be impacted by infrastructure charges. Probably a low level impact really, and when you think about it. So I don't think it's fair and reasonable to ask for those infrastructure charges.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else want to speak?
So just a question, if, as Councillor Bartley stated, that possibly we could have asked them to seal Coochie Road or the easement, well, that would have been at more cost than the infrastructure charge, I would assume.
So
So
really
probably this would be the
significantly more.
lesser of two evils.
Substantial.
Through you, Mayor, absolutely a large cost.
Okay. Anyone else want to speak, or shall we go to a vote on that one? Okay, all in favour? That's Councillors Harslett, Pigeon, Dean, Windle, Hamilton and McDonald. And those against? Councillors Wantling, Bartley and Richters. Okay, thank you. Moving on to general business, Councillor McDonald has discussed with me an item of general business. Over to you, Councillor McDonald.
Thank you very much, Mayor. I'd just like to congratulate the staff for their exceptional support of our veterans and the community for Vietnam Veterans Day on Monday. I couldn't get there to the ceremony, unfortunately. I have been unwell. I am told, however, that it was fantastic. Everything went off well, and certainly I think it was great to see our veterans recognised in this manner. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor McDonald. Okay, in that case, we close the meeting at 11:45 a.m.